Ladies and gentlemen, this is Addis Dialogue with me, Shifarao. As you have probably been aware of, a number of countries have already ratified the Nile River Cooperative Framework Agreement, CFA. What exactly does this mean, and what are the overall implications of its coming into effect, specifically as of October 13, 2024? While this is the case, some countries, such as Egypt and Sudan, have continued to oppose it. What is the major reason behind this? In order to break it down, I'm joined by Joe Akech. He's the former Nairobi mayor and founder and chair of Kenya-Ethiopia Friends Association. I'm your host, Shifarao Lako. Do stay with us. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. It's really good to see you.
Thank you very much. Amasegunalo Bata.
Yes, sir. And Amasegunalo. So let's just jump right into it. And as you have been following new developments in the Horn of Africa, the Nile River Cooperative Framework Agreement, CFA, came into effect on October 13, 2024. So to some of our audience who are not that familiar with the term and the overall implications, what does the CFA mean? And what is the overall implications of the CFA coming into force as of October 13, 2024?
Well, as you had said, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. You've already mentioned the first item, which is the what is the CFA? According to my interpretation, I think it is the overall, first of all, I think the announcement was very well received. The entry into force of the Nile River Cooperative Framework Agreement, which is CFA, on October 13, 2024, carries significant implication for regional cooperation, environmental sustainability, and geopolitical dynamics across the Nile Basin. Some of the key implications, if you allow me, let me mention one or two. One is the shift towards equitable water governance. And then the other one is to strengthen the regional cooperation. And then the other one is what I have in mind is the ongoing diplomatic tension. And then we also have the environmental development impact. And then we also have the diplomatic leverage for Ethiopia and allies. Those are, to me, will be my opening remark. But if you allow me, maybe I may have to go back again in the shift towards equitable water governance. The CFA marks a legal commitment to more balanced water distribution, addressing the historic inequities that have favored Egypt and Sudan under old treaties. Established the Nile River Basin Commission to manage shared resources, providing institutional backing for sustainable water use among the riparian nations. I did mention about the strengthening of the regional cooperation, but that I meant was that the agreement reflects an emerging consensus among several upstream countries like Ethiopia, Uganda, and Tanzania. That cooperation is essentially for addressing shared challenges such as population growth, climate change, and water scarcity. The CFA promotes regional integration and collaboration over conflict, underscoring the need for cooperative approach rather than unilateral action. On the issue of the ongoing diplomatic tension, which I think is also very important for us to know, it is, despite the progress that we've had so far, Egypt and Sudan remain opposed to the CFA, arguing that it undermines their historical water rights. The Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, which is GRD, and I really want to commend the Ethiopian government for coming up with such a mega project, which of course will be beneficial not only to the people of Ethiopia, but in the region and Africa per se. Egypt sees this as a potential threat to its water supply. The CFA's success may hinge on whether these downstream nations eventually join the agreement on negotiated new terms. When I mention about the environmental and development impact, to me, I basically saying it promotes sustainable development, balancing environmental protection with economic growth. It encourages riparian states to cooperate in the managing the river's ecosystem to ensure future generation benefit from the Nile resources. On the issue of the diplomatic leverage for Ethiopia and allies, Ethiopia and other signatory nations have gained diplomatic momentum, with Ethiopia's Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, calling for all Nile Basin countries to embrace what he described as the Nile family. This collective vision aims to promote peace and prosperity through shared resource management, though it may also challenge Egypt's influence in the region. In summary, the CFA enactment represents a significant step toward fostering a new era of cooperation along the Nile. However, the full realization of its goals will depend on the ability of all stakeholders, particularly Egypt and Sudan, to find common ground in the future negotiation.
That's a great point. Moving on from there, sir, how does the Nile River Cooperative Framework Agreement aim to establish a legal framework for cooperation among the basin countries, with a particular emphasis on sustainable as well as equitable utilization of the river's resources, be it downstream or upstream?
Okay, my response or what I have in mind is the Cooperative Framework Agreement, which is CFA, aims to establish a comprehensive legal framework for cooperation among the Nile Basin countries by focusing on the equitable and sustainable use of the river's resources. Below, I have some of the key ways in which the CFA seeks to accomplish this objective, and please allow me to itemize them. One is the principle equitable and reasonable use, and the other one is the Nile River Basin Commission. The third one is the commitment to sustainability and future generation, and then the fourth one is the prevention of harm and conflict resolution mechanism. The other one is the inclusiveness and calls for regional unity. Again, I may have to go back again and define the number one, which I had stated, which was the principle, equitable, reasonable use. By that I meant the CFA provides a new legal basis for water distribution that is inclusive of all riparian countries, moving away from the historical agreement that disproportionately benefited downstream nations, Egypt and Sudan. The framework guarantees all countries the right to utilize the Nile resources fairly, ensuring that no single nation monopolizes its benefit. But the item number two, which I mentioned, which is the Nile River Basin Commission, by this I meant is the central component of the CFA, is the establishment of the Nile River Basin Commission. This institutionalized body will do the following. One is coordinate cooperation among member states. Number two is manage shared water projects and ensure joint planning for water infrastructure. The third one is monitor environmental sustainability to prevent any activities that could harm other countries or ecosystem along the river. The third one, which I'd mentioned, was the commitment to sustainability and future generation. The CFA underscores the importance of sustainable development by ensuring that resources use does not compromise the river's health, future generation, and also countries will also be encouraged to adopt environmental conscious policies, manage ecosystem responsibly, and share benefit from projects like irrigations, hydropower, and fishery. The fourth one, which I mentioned, was the prevention of harm and conflict resolution mechanism, and that amendment was the agreement includes provision to prevent harm to other states through water projects and dispute. It emphasizes consultation and consensus to manage shared challenges such as dam building and water extraction, promoting peaceful coexistence among riparian nations. The other one was the inclusiveness and calls for regional unity. But this I meant was while Egypt and Sudan remain outside the CFA, the agreement promotes regional integration, calling on all Nile Basin countries to join the Nile family. The CFA sets the foundation for trust building, mutual benefit, which can help prevent conflicts and foster regional peace and development. In summary, the CFA establishes a legal framework through principles of equity, cooperation, sustainability, and influence and inclusiveness, coupled with the creation of a basin-wide institution. Its success hinges on the both implementation by signatory states and the eventually participation of non-signatories like Egypt and Sudan, ensuring that shared water resources contribute to mutual prosperity rather than the conflict.
As you know, the activation of the CFA has been hailed as a historic milestone for regional cooperation. So what does this mean specifically to Ethiopia, at the source of the Abai River, and also as a country that's a strong proponent of fair utilization of the Abai waters?
Well, Ethiopia hailing the activation of the Cooperative Framework Agreement, CFA, as a historic milestone reflects the strategic, political, and development significance this agreement holds for the country, particularly as the source of the Abai River, which is the Blue Nile. Below are some of the keys why CFA is pivotal for Ethiopia. And one of them is legitimize Ethiopia's use of the Nile waters. Number two is overcoming historical water agreement. Number three is enhance regional influence. Number four is promotion of sustainable development. And the fifth one is a pathway to long-term regional peace. I think this is what I have, but again, let me go back again and reemphasize it in the item number one, which was the legitimate Ethiopian use of the Nile waters. By that I meant was that the source of water, the source of more than 80% of the Nile's water through Abai River. Ethiopia has long sought to gain formal recognition of its rights to use river for development. The CFA provides the legal foundation for Ethiopia to build and manage projects including hydropower, irrigation without needing prior consent from the downstream countries like Egypt and Sudan. This is especially relevant to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which I visited some times back. Again, this is a major project for Ethiopia's energy ambition. The number two, which I mentioned, was to overcome historical water agreements. By that, I meant the CFA marks a shift from older agreements such as the 1929, 1959 colonial era treaties, which allocated the bulk of the Nile's water to Egypt and Sudan, while excluding stream countries. For Ethiopia, this agreement helps rectify historical imbalances, ensure that future water sharing decisions will include the interest of the upstream nation. The number 3, which I'd also mentioned, the enhanced regional influence, but that amendment was by spearheading the CFA and rallying support from other upstream countries. Ethiopia strengthened its regional influence, positioning itself as a key player in the Nile Basin diplomacy. The CFA activation gives Ethiopia great leverage in ongoing dispute, particularly regarding the filling and operation of the JED, and helps align it with countries like Uganda, Tanzania, Southern Sudan, advocating for equitable water use. The other one which I mentioned was the promotion of sustainable development, but that amendment was the CFA aligned with Ethiopia's broader goals of sustainable development and energy security. With the CFA enforced, Ethiopia can pursue large-scale water projects with the assurance that they are legally supported under the framework of regional cooperation, allowing it to meet the economic goals without triggering conflict. The other one, which is did mention, was a pathway to long-term regional peace. Ethiopia views the CFA as an opportunity to promote cooperation over conflict. The agreement fosters collaborative approach by formalizing a basin-wide commission to address dispute and coordinate water management. This crucial for maintaining regional peace and ensuring that tensions over water resources do not escalate into a larger conflict. In summary, the CFA is a game changer for Ethiopia. It legitimizes Ethiopia's water use ambitions, strengthen its diplomatic standing, and contribute to regional peace. Ethiopia's role as the main contributory to the Nile flow is now acknowledged within the framework that emphasizes fairness, mutual benefit, and sustainable development.
So in this regard, how will the agreement promote equal and fair access to the Nile's resources or to the Addis resources by addressing the long-standing issues of water distribution and water monopoly?
Well, to me, I think the cooperative framework agreement, which is CFA, addresses long-standing water distribution challenges in the Nile basins by promoting equal and fair access to the river's resources through several mechanisms designed to foster inclusivity, sustainability, and equity. One is a principle of equitable and reasonable use. And then the other one is elimination of historical monopolies on water rights. The other one is establishment of the Nile River Basin Commission. And then we have the sustainable development and benefit sharing. The fifth one is prevention of harmful activities. And again, allow me to reemphasize those points which I've just mentioned. Coming back is the principle of equitable and reasonable use. The CFA emphasizes that all Nile Basin countries, regardless of their geographical position, upstream or downstream, have the right to use and benefit from the river resources. The approach moves away from either agreement that disproportionately favored downstream countries like Egypt and Sudan, giving upstream countries such as Ethiopia, Uganda, and Rwanda legitimate stake in the resources allocation. The other one is the elimination of historical monopolies on water rights. Older agreements, such as the 1929 and 1959 treaties, allocated exclusive water quotas to Egypt and Sudan, ignoring the needs of upstream countries. The CFA nullifies these colonial era agreements by establishing a new legal framework that considers the water demand for all basin nations, fostering inclusiveness and fair distribution. The other one I'd mentioned was the establishment of the Nile River Basin Commission. The creation of the NRBC, that's the Nile River Basin Commission, is central to ensuring equitable access. This body will oversee the following: joint decision-making on water projects. The other one is coordination among countries to avoid conflict, monitoring of environmental impact to ensure sustainable development. And through the NRBC, all signatory countries will have an equal voice in planning and decision-making process regarding the management and utilization of the Nile waters. The other one I'd mentioned was the sustainable development and benefit sharing. The CFA shifts the focus from water allocation quotas to benefit sharing. This means that the agreement encourages the development of shared projects such as hydropower, irrigation, and water storage system that delivers benefits to all parties. By promoting regional integration, it aims to maximize the river's potential in ways that do not harm any state's interests. The other one was the prevention of harmful activities. The CFA includes provision that each country must ensure its use of the river does not cause significant harm to other nations. This principle fosters responsible water management practices and encourages countries to consult each other before implementing large projects such as the dams or irrigation schemes, and also to prevent the dispute if they may occur. The other one, which I think I'd mentioned, was the flexibility to adapt future needs. But that I meant is the agreement ensures that water use is adaptable to changing conditions such as population growth and climate change. It encourages countries to update their strategies and cooperate on regional challenges through dialogue and shared research, reducing the risk of conflict and fostering resilience. The CFA promotes equal and fair access to the Nile by establishing a cooperative framework where all countries have a seat at the table. Through equitable water use, benefit sharing, and joint governance. The agreement addresses historical imbalances, ensuring that future water utilization is sustainable, inclusive, while it remains to be seen if non-signatories like Egypt and Sudan will join. The CFA lays the foundation for a new era of cooperation that can reduce tension and unlock mutual benefit for the entire region.
Thank you so much for your ideas and your time.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes, so I hope we'll meet sometime in the future again. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you as well for having been with us so far.